Hi everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and we are back again today to do what we do best on this channel here, which is to rant about a Star Trek book for, 20 minutes or so. And that's what we're going to do here, because we have just finished up, mere moments ago, well, minutes ago, Fallen Heroes, DS9, number 5, written by, if you don't know how to pronounce that, that is Dafydd, Hugh. It's Welsh, right? Anyway, this was his first Star Trek book, and I have read a few other of his books as well. And let me see if I left his stuff pulled up here, and of course I didn't. Of course I did. So, yeah, again, I've read some work by him before. He did some work on the Invasion series, and, he did Balance of Power for TNG, which I enjoyed. So, but this here is his very first book. And I have to tell you, it is a doozy. It is quite a doozy. I would say, out of all of the Star Trek books that I've read, this is easily going to be the darkest one. I say darkest, but I guess what I mean is it's like the most violent Star Trek book that I've ever read. And I think a part of that goes down with the fact that the enemy in this book is different than typically what you have in most of Star Trek, in that they use they use guns. They use these gas propelled bullets to friggin' devastate everything, right? And it adds like a whole new level of violence, right, to the story that you typically don't get with Trek, right? Because with Trek you've got you've got the phasers, you've got people being vaporized, and that's kind of the norm, right? So this kind of goes against that, and again, it's something that I've never read before in a Trek book, right? And I'm frankly, I am glad. Well, I want to say thank you to Sebastian for suggesting this one, because it was a ride. At first, I was like, whoa. I was like, whoa, this is kind of dark. Like, man. But as it went on, the way he told the story was just very well done, and it kind of kept me engaged with the whole thing. And in it, also at its heart, look here, I don't know, I guess in an effort to sell the story, they did want to put like the main characters of the series on the cover, but you would be fooled if you thought that this was a Sisko and Kira centric book. This is a Quark and Odo story, basically. Everybody else does get their part to play, but they are the heroes. And man, it's always a fun dynamic. I always loved the Quark and Odo episodes in Deep Space Nine, so their part in this story is awesome. And then the other side to the story is the dark part, right? But we'll get to that. Anyway, let's do the normal here. Fallen heroes, alien soldiers conquer Deep Space Nine. When a troop of alien warriors demands the return of an imprisoned comrade, a prisoner no one on Deep Space Nine knows anything about, Commander Benjamin Sisko has a deadly fight on his hands. Under sudden attack from the heavily armed warriors, Sisko and his crew struggle desperately to repel the invaders and save the lives of everybody on board. Meanwhile, a strange device from the Gamma Quadrant has shifted Ferengi barkeeper Quark and security chief Odo 3 days into the future to a silent Deep Space Nine. To save the station, they must discover what caused the invasion to take place and find a pathway back through time itself. Now, the author suggested, and of course the publishers did not go through with this, that the back blurb simply read, "Everyone dies." Can you imagine that? That would have been, if they had went through with that, that actually would have been a very interesting thing. Imagine you're picking up the new book, you look at the back cover, you're expecting to get a little bit of a summary, everyone dies. Man, I think that would actually entice more people to pick it up and buy it and want to read it. So, they should have went with his suggestion. Because then of course you're like, no, everyone can't die. But, alright. On that same point here, let's go ahead and check how I learned this information. So, you got to have the book about Star Trek books if you're serious about reading Star Trek books. Dafydd, or Dafydd, anyway, says, when my agent suggested I write a Trek novel, my first thought was how to subvert the universe. I love that. I love that. Since rule number one was that you could not kill off any main characters, I instantly began thinking of a book where I would kill all the main characters. In fact, I even suggested to then Trek editor John or Dover that the back cover copy should simply read, "Everyone dies." Alas, Pocket wouldn't go for it. I love that. It's fantastic. Man, I do kind of want to know, like, dang, what kind of place was he in when he was writing this book? Because, again, it is quite dark. Quite dark. So, if you don't want to read about all of your favorite Deep Space Nine characters getting brutally shot by aliens, I mean, albeit they all do die heroically, right? You might want to skip this one. But if you stick with it, you get you get all these very heroic moments, which again, that goes right with the title, right? The fallen heroes. And then the way that everything comes together, that each sacrifice, each moment led to the eventual victory of Quark and Odo, was just fantastic. And again, the way that the story was told is very well done as well too, because you're in of course the present where the invasion is taking place, and then Quark and Odo, they are 3 days into the future where the invasion is already gone and over with, right? So as they explore the station in the future, then it dips back to the past, and you get little bits of the story from that side as well too. So, and he does that so well. Now, I would say, I mean, it's an early Deep Space Nine thing, so of course the characterizations are not always going to be on point, right? You're just going with kind of basically what you've got right there that's been put out. And I didn't really look. I mean, this was put out in '94. But again, it's early Deep Space Nine, so they're still kind of developing, the character traits, some of the rules for how things go. And there's some stuff in here that happens with Odo, and I'm like, well, I mean, maybe he could do that. I don't know. But it's actually pretty wild. So, actually, let's get into that now. So, if you don't want to be spoiled, I'm just going to keep shaking this book at you. No, I'm sorry. I'm going to put that down now. You all can leave now. I did do some pretty decent notes. In full disclosure, I did them today. This is my rendition of one of the invaders. Okay? It's it's what it is. But this is a Quark and Odo story, so the story starts and ends with Quark and Odo, and Quark has basically come across this Cardassian box, right? And he needs to figure out what's inside of it so he can sell it on consignment for this dude and make himself some, a nice stack of gold pressed platinum, right? Now, when he gets it open, Odo, of course, is watching everything that he does, right? And he insists that Quark get it checked out, He's not going to open this box on the station unless Odo knows that it's safe, right? So he takes it to Dr. Bashir. Looks good. Takes it to O'Brien. O'Brien says it looks good. Quark is obviously a master locksmith, right? So he's able to pick the box and open it up. And when he opens it up, he finds, a few odds and ends. But there's this thing that kind of looks like a belt buckle or something. I think they describe it. Small, fits in his hand. And he starts fooling around with that when, boom, him and Odo are thrown, well, they don't know this at the time, but are thrown 3 days into the future. And when they arrive in the future, the station is decimated. There's dead bodies all about the promenade, not a single sign of life, and they have to begin, exploring, basically, and kind of figuring out the mystery of what happened, right? So then the story then goes back to the present, where Odo and Quark have just vanished, and this ship comes through the wormhole, and they're basically like, these guys basically say like one thing the whole time. There's this guy, and they call him the Inquisitor of these guys, right? First off, they all look the same. They have armor, and they have a globed black helmet, right? So very kind of, I like that very sci-fi kind of idea and look. And it's just a very creepy kind of look as well, too, right? And they're all looking the same. None of them speak except for this one. And the only thing this guy's asking is basically, where is the other one like us? And they kind of immediately come to the station, take over the station. They beam aboard a team, or they get a team on board and send them out. And then they are... What's up, buddy?
Just a key.
Oh, did you find it?
No, that's the other key.
Oh, okay. I will help you put it on later. All right. Anyway, they get aboard the station, and they begin to basically interrogate and then murder everyone on board, right? And again, this is like, when I'm reading this book, I'm like, holy crap, this is dark. Like, they are dragging the shopkeepers of the promenade out, saying, where is the one like us? When they don't know, boom, dead. Boom, dead. And they're just shooting them all in the head, right? This has to be the most times in a Star Trek book that people have been shot in the face. And everybody gets shot in the face. All of your favorite DS9 characters, no, not all of them, but a majority of your favorite DS9 characters get shot in the face by these dudes. But just to keep the story moving along, it basically continues along where you get to see exactly that. You get to see how the invasion starts, who they kill first, and of course it starts out really dark, right? They kill freaking Keiko O'Brien first. They go to they're in the promenade, they end up at the school, they're questioning her. Miles gets down there. I mean, it's terrible, right? And then after that, Miles, of course, sacrifices himself to allow Jake and Nog to escape. And it just keeps going from there, right? And then as you're following along, you get to see it from the past, and then it shifts to the 3 days in the future, and then you get to see Quark and Odo discovering the aftermath. So they come upon the wreckage of the school and the body of Keiko O'Brien, right? And they find the tunnel where Jake and Nog escaped, right? So again, it's just a very, very fun way that he tells the story, that they get to kind of go back and forth. And just, I don't think I've ever read anything like that before. I really liked how he did that. So, and the story just continues on. So, and every death adds something that Quark and Odo can then use to, just win the day, basically, at the end. So you get Dax's addition to it, which is basically she figures out how to kill one of these things without it... See, they have tried to fight back a little bit, and it's not gone too well. They're pretty much impervious to phasers. They kind of bounce right off. And like I said, they're just using these gas-propelled freaking bullets, which are just tearing everything up. So O'Brien, he comes up with a way to basically rig a phaser to be a grenade. And that's pretty much the only weapon that works. And Dax is the first one to be successful and take one of these guys out, even though in the process she is also killed. And yes, she's also shot in the face too. So again, oof. But when she figures out how to do that, then it cuts back to the future. And then you have Quark and Odo stumbling upon that scene, seeing Dax dead, seeing this, basically their first view of one of these invaders, right? Because before, when one would die, and they haven't been able to kill too many, they would be like immolated. I think it's kind of like a security measure. They would, when their body detected they were dead, like the suit would blow up and they would be melted into nothingness, right? So, but it continues on like that, and then it gets really, really dark. All right, they are trying to evacuate, and they've got a shuttlecraft full of children that they're trying to evacuate here, right? So they get... Oh, okay. Nice job. they get the shuttlecraft full of children out, right? Kira is like knocking grenades back and like fighting them off, but the shuttlecraft gets a little bit from the station, gets blasted by this ship, and then crashes back into the station, and all the children and the shuttlecraft pilot, of course, and everyone dies. I'm like, what? Dude, this is a dark book, right? I'm serious. Like, this is crazy. And that is the time also that's Kira's heroic end. She tried to get them away, and it almost worked, but in the end, again, the book takes the dark turn, right? It takes the very dark turn. So, okay. So Dax dies, Kira dies, Dr. Bashir, he also dies, and in the way that he dies, I like this as well too, he keeps the interrogator talking so that when Quark and Odo are 3 days in the future and they're looking at this, they actually see this on one of Dr. Bashir's logs he was recording, and it gives them that little bit more of information so that they can learn, like, a little bit more to save the day. So again, every person, every character's death and heroic, action has added a little bit more so that Quark and Odo could solve the problem and get out of here, right? So, alright, so Dr. Bashir. So after they meet up there at the infirmary, they go and they find the only survivors of the attack, which are Jake and Molly. And Jake and Molly kind of, and again, see Jake and Molly do their part as well, because without them, they wouldn't have been led to like the final key to the puzzle, right? So every single person, every single act adds to like the next thing, and it just keeps building up until, and you knew this was going to happen too, there had to be some sort of MacGuffin, I guess it's called, because obviously they can't just kill off all the characters in the book. What was it going to be? Was it going to be, oh, it was all a dream? Oh, you were stuck in a holodeck program. It was a queue the whole time. No, time travel, right? So they time travel 3 days in the future. They learn that they can also then time travel 3 days into the past. So it's a weird, it's a weird device, I guess, but it's something that these aliens use. And they do eventually learn that the aliens, they don't have a name. They are known as called Beckars, which is like a kind of a Cardassian varmint or something, right? But they are a super duper xenophobic race. Basically, if another species finds them or finds one of them, they come and they get them, they kill everybody. And basically for them, everybody else is not even like a sentient being. They're animals, pretty much, which explains their, their terrible actions here on the station. So, I lost my train of thought. But anyway, the device, the time device, it's like an escape thing for them. So, if one of these dudes is about to be captured, they can press their little belt buckle device, travel 3 days into the future, basically hide, and then eventually travel back into the past and then escape. So, that's kind of the idea. And, it's a stretch, but it works. I mean, it makes the story work. So basically now the whole idea is they need to find an intact key that will operate this device so that Quark and Odo can go back in time to warn the station, right? Now, here is the problem. Again, these guys blow up when they die. So none of these keys are intact. But Jake knows where there might be a key, because his father had a heroic last stand in the core of the station, like I think picturing like the very bottom part, right? Where basically in his last effort as a commander, he lured all of the Beckars down there, and then what was it? He set off basically all of the phaser grenades he had left near the reactors, which set off a giant EMP. And luckily, before this EMP, he was able to warn Jake to let him know to get to a shielded area, and thus, saving Jake so that Jake could then give Quark and Odo this information, right? So again, every little piece just goes together. Boom, 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 boom. I love it. just beautifully put together. So, the ending. Oh man, the ending was very, very, very good. And again, like very intense. And like thinking about this even was crazy. So, uh, in the past, Cisco, realizing the station was lost, decided to kill all these guys, right? They're not going to get off the station. So he lures them all down into the core, sets off that explosion, and they are all dead. But now Odo and Quark need to be led back down there by Jake and Molly. Also, I didn't even mention Nog. Nog is in this and has a very heroic part as well. Anyway, but the core is like super heated at this point, right? So Odo, since he's the only one that isn't going to be affected by this, has to go down in there, right? And again, like as he's touching the floor, he's like melting and like losing bits of himself to the floor. So it was a very exciting end where he is basically melting away as he's trying to find this key. He finally finds it. He gets back up. Quark gets the key. They're able to get it in just in time, of course, right? Nick of time, and get back to the past. And when they get back to the past, they're literally like right at the moment when these Beckars are ready to invade the station. Again, I can't tell you everything that happens because there's just like so much, and it is like a very fun kind of like race to the finish. And man, Quark saves the day, and again he doesn't get the credit for it. But again, like Odo says at the end too, it was kind of his fault the whole thing happened anyway because he's the one that turned the damn thing on. So, but anyway, they get to Ops in time. Quark is basically carrying a bucket of melted Odo with him, like the whole time. They have to suck him up with a vacuum cleaner and then dump him into a bucket. I thought that was pretty good too. But again, just so much going on here. And again, very dark. If you don't want to read about, a bunch of people getting shot, then this is not the book for you. But this definitely is a very good and a very exciting Star Trek book. And again, it's not like any other Star Trek book that I've read. So again, I would recommend it as long as you're okay with, a lot of the shooting stuff. And it makes me want to read more of his Deep Space Nine stuff, which I will definitely do. But for now, we are going to move on to Voyager. We're going to do one from each series, I've decided, and just kind of continue on that way for a bit. So we are going to look down at the old Voyager shelf here, and I think we're just going to do this by cover and author. We'll look at the authors first, and then we'll pick out a few. We'll look at the cover, and then we're just going to be like, boom, let's go, Voyager time. Anyway, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. As always, my friends, live long and prosper. We'll see you guys in the next one. Have a good night.